I played your indie games to give you some game design feedback. You sent me hundreds of games and prototypes. For now I only chose 3, we'll dissect them to their core, and more parts with more games will follow. My name is Jonas, I'm a full-time indie game developer. I co-develop games such as Islanders, Will You Snail, and now Thronefall. This first game intrigued me because it promised to be a puzzle roguelike, a genre combination that I certainly haven't seen much of before. The game started me off in this room with the mouse sensitivity set way too low, the gamepad sensitivity set way too high, and no apparent way to change it in the menu. It's important to note that these games are not finished yet, these are still in a work in progress state. Please add sensitivity settings, I beg you. So I started embarking on my epic adventure through the pyramid. As soon as I entered the first room, I immediately saw the ceiling coming down and thought, this is a very good sign. Everything's fine, I just need to figure out this puzzle. I did not figure out the puzzle. In my second attempt, I could already see some of the roguelike elements, cause this tunnel was clearly different than the one I played last time. Unfortunately, I suddenly died without knowing why, so I assume something killed me from behind. I later found out that there are indeed different things chasing you through the tunnels, like the ground just disappearing behind you, or the classic, a giant boulder. Being killed from behind typically leads to a lot of frustration, cause as you can see, it is not in the player's vision cone. They don't even know what hit them, they're just suddenly dead. So let's say you're being chased by a wall of fire. What you can do, add a bit of glow to the fire. On top of the fire lighting up the walls, we might also have some spark particles flying around in this area here. And you can see now the player actually sees the obstacle coming closer. If the obstacle is further away, player doesn't see anything. But as it gets closer and closer, the player sees more and more of the foreshadowing zone. This can easily apply to other obstacles as well. For example, if we say the ground is disappearing behind the player, let's for example say this range right here, where the ground is not disappearing yet, but it's shaking and it's starting to loosen up a bit. When I encountered this puzzle again, I had trouble figuring out what to do. I could for some reason not interact with the buttons yet. I think I don't want to go into pyramids anymore. On my third attempt, I finally spotted this button, and from there the puzzle was pretty straightforward. I think the easiest solution to help this would be to make the button a bit brighter, because it's quite difficult to see, especially under time pressure. We haven't seen much yet, but one thing we can already positively point out is the sound design. Just listen to this. Music to my ears. Very good. The second puzzle type I encountered was similar-ish. You once again have to remember the colors and then press the 2 matching buttons. This one I was able to figure out first try. One thing you could consider for all of these colored buttons is that in addition to the color, you could also put icons on them. This way they're easier to differentiate. For example, I personally also confused yellow and orange a couple of times. But on top of that, it also ensures that no matter which color blindness people may have, they can still play the game. This next room confused the hell out of me. Let's watch my real-time playtest for this one. So I found the torch, right? I try to light it, it doesn't work. So I'm like, clearly I have to light this somewhere, right? Now lighting it on this flame here doesn't work either. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I can't do anything. Cry emoji. The ceiling starts closing in. I run around like a wild chicken and realize I can pick up the fire from the corner there. Why can I pick up the fire from the corner there? There were 4 kinds of objects in the room. Silver bowl with fire, stone bowl, and stone bowl with fire. And it turns out the latter 2 are completely non-interactable. Now why can I pick up the fire from one bowl and not from the other? I think I have a very simple fix for this inconsistency. Delete the stone bowls from this room. Just don't have them in this room. In my next run it came how it had to. I very quickly ended up in the same puzzle room again, but this time with my newly acquired knowledge, and I thought I had this in the bag. Just light this one right here. Do the same thing with the other bowl. Easy peasy. All of the flames in the middle are burning. Stop tickling me! So apparently this is not the solution to the puzzle, so I keep going back to all of the other bowls and see if I can do anything. Every time you restart, you play some randomized puzzles, but eventually you always get back to the same room. Finally, I had an idea. Yes, I cracked the code. You have to put the torch back. Well, I'm an idiot, I guess, but you also have to assume that there are more idiots like me out there. I think one thing you could do to make this part of the puzzle feel a lot fairer would be to turn this construction into something that looks more like a switch. This way it firstly stands out more, and secondly it's also more believable that something would happen when I put the torch back. By the way, this is not a suggestion for the final design, this is what you call a mock-up, just to get the point across. My favorite puzzle type was this one here. There's a pillar in the middle that tells you in which order to press the buttons, and then you just press the buttons in that order. I think what you should be aiming for with these puzzles is it should always be obvious what you're supposed to do, but doing it, that should be the challenge, and this puzzle nails that perfectly. There's one more puzzle where you just have to extinguish all of the flames in the room. It's probably not even really meant as a puzzle. I think it's probably more meant like as a speed challenge, which is fine. And then there's a variation on the puzzle where you have to remember the color combination, but this time all of the buttons are spread out across the room, so you have to move a little more. Okay, that's it. That's it. Take me. Feedback, obviously the game needs more content, but also I think the difficulty needs to pick up faster. After a while I just got bored and committed not living. There's so much more to say, but we're running out of time, so let's do a speed round. What's awesome about pyramids is that the interior can stretch into all dimensions without any problems. You can go left, right, up, down. Meanwhile, your pyramid felt very flat. It's essentially a 2D game with a 3D skin. I wish we had more three-dimensionality, both in the tunnels as well as in the puzzle rooms. The art style is overall very nice for an indie game. I like it a lot. The most important setting you could turn on is the screen space ambient occlusion, as that makes everything pop a little more, makes it feel more three-dimensional. Currently you're only using about 1/3 of the color spectrum available. If we stretch that over the entire color spectrum, we see that the game gets a lot less muddy and we can see more clearly. In fact, I color corrected most of this video so far just to make sure we can at the very least see what's going on, because it's very muddy otherwise. By just adjusting the brightness down a little more, you can also go for a more mysterious look if that's what you want. The game could also benefit from more visual variety, and I think lighting is by far the easiest way to achieve that. Light rooms with different colors, different brightness levels, and you get a lot of visual variety essentially for free. Visual variety is surprisingly important for getting your games played. For example, imagine you visit a store page and all of the screenshots look like this. Then you visit the next store page and it has a lot more visual variety. Which are you more likely to play? Lighting is such a cheap way to achieve this. Speaking of variety, one very important problem you still have to solve is how do you actually randomize these puzzles in a way that feels meaningful and that makes them feel different and unique every time you encounter them. You can add more puzzle types, but that only fights the symptom, because the root cause of the problem is that the randomizations of these puzzles are not interesting enough yet. Let's take the torch puzzle for example. What did you randomize here? Maybe which fires are burning, maybe where some of these wall blocks are placed, maybe some of these sand puddles on the ground. Not really interesting enough. You need to randomize bigger things. So to visualize this from a top-down perspective, I think this is what you're currently doing. You're randomizing minor details that players are not even gonna notice. What I would recommend you try to do instead is randomize bigger level features, more important level features that players definitely are not gonna miss. Randomizing puzzles in a way that feels meaningful is actually very, very difficult, but it's also a very big make or break for your game, so I hope you manage to figure it out. All in all, your game still gets a very big thumbs up, and I hope I get to play more of it in the future. I really enjoyed it. Please keep at it. This game started out as a game jam submission. From what I can tell, the team is now trying to turn it into a commercial product. I'm happy to help with some advice if I can. The game starts us out with a quick tutorial. For a game jam tutorial, this is actually very, very good. For an actual release, I think it would be a bit better to have the player try all of these interactions themselves instead of just watching these animations. Luckily, we get into the game soon enough and the controls are fairly intuitive. The game loop is simple. You have your crew pick up water and then use that water to put out the fires before they spread everywhere. One thing this game gets absolutely right, in my opinion, is the pacing. It's super important for these kind of games not to be too fast or too slow, and damn it, this game manages to hit that sweet spot. It's slow enough that you don't feel stressed, and at the same time it's fast enough that you don't feel bored watching it. The fire even shows you where it's about to spread, Awesome design decision. In my playtest, I sent my troops around, I collected water, I tried to put out the fire. Eventually I managed to contain the fire to one side, but unfortunately it was already too late and I suddenly lost. Why? Well, apparently I lost because of percentages. Why did you kill me, percentages? Why? Jokes aside, I think the mechanic that only a certain percentage of the ground is allowed to burn is fine. What I find confusing is just the UI, so I have a suggestion. Let's just turn it into a health bar. Health bars are easy to understand, we don't need any percentages on the screen, and when the health is running low we can make it flash a little bit so that the lose screen is not coming as a surprise. There are 2 win and 2 lose conditions in the game. You win when there's no more fire or when the timer runs out. So yes, this timer running out is a good thing. You lose when either a certain percentage of the ground has been burned or when the mayor's house has been burned. I did very much like the double lose condition because it had an impact on how I played the game. The double win condition, nah, not as much. You know, I'm trying to put out all of the fires anyway, so the timer doesn't really do anything extra. I personally would just remove the timer. Putting out all of the fires is a very intuitive win condition. It's a satisfying win condition. We don't really need any more than that. For my second run, my strategy was already way more optimized. I managed to contain some of the fires pretty much immediately, so easy clap, and I was able to move on to the next level. So in every level I got an additional villager, all the way up to 6. Eventually we got one more new game mechanic with these berry bushes that spread fire over a large distance. That's pretty much it. That's all you have to know about the game. So now let's see how my playthrough went. Awesome. First of all, I had a blast. I played all the way to the end, but I also spotted a couple more things. No, where are you going? Frick me, they can't go there. Dear Santa, I hope you can make it so I can walk behind trees. I've always wanted to be behind a tree. Also for me personally, this game has a clear fantasy problem. Fantasy is the story you keep telling yourself while playing the game. For example, I'm a treasure hunter or explorer in a pyramid. Very cool fantasy. I command a troop of firefighters protecting the village from being burnt down. Very, very cool fantasy as well. The problem is just, where the is the village? I'm sorry, but this pathetic guy is calling himself a mayor? Like, a mayor of what? A mayor of 6 trees? I would like to feel like an epic troop of firefighters. How I'm feeling now is more like the baboons of a pathetic man sitting on a roof. Here's one idea for a solution. Give the mayor an actual village to work with, and you can see how this immediately changes the vibe of the scene. Now it feels a lot more like I'm actually doing something useful and a lot less like I'm just protecting a rich man who decided to build his mansion in the worst place possible. Or a different solution, we literally turn the mayor of trees into the mayor of trees. It's already a very nature-focused game, so I believe a solution like this would be plausible as well. Now we need to explain how all of these people got here, so let's add a boat or something. I don't really care which story you want to tell me. I just want it to be believable so that I can feel good about myself while playing. I also want to point out that these very strong symmetries in a level hurt the believability as well. I much prefer levels like this that look way more naturally grown. Another thing you probably want to rework for the final game is the UI. The golden rule for UI is less is more, the best part is no part. This pause button has no right to be as big as it is, not even in the web version. Throughout my entire playthrough, I never even had a look at the timer. I really don't think we need it. The only new information we have in the bottom right here that we don't have elsewhere on the screen are the hotkeys. Let's put the hotkeys right over our characters. That actually makes the hotkeys easier to use as we don't have to look back and forth, and we free up more space on screen. Last but not least, we have our confusing percentages. As discussed, let's turn them into an easy to understand health bar. All of the new space we have available now we can use for actual level design, which is wonderful. And there you go, your game jam game suddenly looks like something you could already sell with just these small couple of changes. It's so funny how the UI is such a big giveaway. You can totally see that this is a game jam game and suddenly you don't see it anymore. It's really funny. Let me just tell you, you are in the perfect situation to turn this into a commercial release. You already have a game that is fun, it already works, it doesn't need much more. I'm sure you have plenty of ideas and your players have plenty of ideas. You could give your characters special abilities, they could have like different stats from each other, there could be a fire truck, there can be all kinds of different things on the map that can burn down and spread fire in different ways. There are so many ideas. The difficult part will just be filtering through that. That is a luxury problem, because your game is already fun, it already works. One thing I would definitely recommend you add is different biomes, just because it helps a ton with marketing. You just have more variety to show this way. And then at the same time, be very careful not to overscope. Your game does not need much at all. Put quality over quantity and just make it a tiny but very, very polished experience. That's what I would recommend. It's awesome. It's awesome. Really, really good starting point. I'm very optimistic for you. This next game is what I would call an atmospheric game, so I want to give it a bit more time to breathe. Without disrespect to the creator, I'll still speed through it here and there and cut it down a bit.
Since we are born, we are full of imagination and dreams without the influence of the outer world. We discover, we wonder, and we feel the freedom of the unknown. We see a world full of beautiful and imaginary things, sometimes only we could see. Inside of us, we have a never-ending power to dream. But if we grow older, we slowly lost our ability to see the world through the eyes of a child. We are influenced by opinions and concepts, by things that steal us energy and hinder us in advancing further, until we are running out of our power to dream. But inside of us, there will always be a spark that can be rekindled into a flame.
To me, it sounds like this game is about rediscovering your inner child, your ability to imagine and dream like a child. We see our main character, very cute, very adorable. And here comes another cutscene and the most confusing section of the game for me personally.
You have the ability to take on the form of other dream guardians you got in contact with. With them, you will find ways and solutions that you would not normally find. I give you a part of myself for your journey until you find me.
The very first thing the game makes me do is change my form with the most unintuitive button combination possible. You see me struggle for a while till eventually I click the correct buttons, probably by accident. The next thing I'm forced to learn is to look around. To look around a lot. I did look around. I did look around. At this point, it's apparently already time to switch back. I had the feeling that the game taught me something very important, but I did not know what or what the point of it was at all. And here comes the strange part that really confused me. I never needed this mechanic ever again. This was the only time I used that game mechanic. And I'm just like, that seems strange. Why would you teach me that if I don't need it? Maybe one way I could possibly make sense of it now in hindsight is maybe I was taught to change forms here, and this is like an optional feature, and I just forgot about it and never had to use it. If it was an introduction to an important mechanic, then to be honest, at this point, I had already forgotten all about it. And I think the main problem with that introduction was that you taught me a solution for a problem I did not encounter yet. If you were like, okay, here's a problem, and now you can solve it by changing your form, then I think I would understand much more easily. But now it was like, okay, you'd forced me to change my form. Whatever, this is part of the cutscene, let's forget about it. The jump sound sounds like somebody saying "foop" into a microphone. Foop, 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 foop. I want to point out two things real quick, because it got overshadowed by this confusing moment a bit. Firstly, the visuals are really nice, and secondly, the sounds are really nice as well. So the atmosphere overall is definitely there.
To activate this pillar, you need to find the lost spirit first.
I received my first objective. I found out that you're not supposed to jump into the purple stuff. And then I just continued searching, looking around for the lost spirit. The game finally taught me how to jump, so I knew I was on the correct path. I would say this path should definitely be marked a bit more. All of the stones look kind of the same here. This one doesn't really stand out as the one you should climb.
This is one of the lost spirits you need to wake up to use their energy.
Not a big fan of the two sound effects we just heard. They sound a little bit out of context. Like, they don't sound very spirity. They sound like they've been pulled from free sound. Actually, the same goes for the landing sound of the player, probably. Seems a bit sparkly for what it is. Doesn't really match the visuals. But here we are about to activate our first pillar. Let's see what happens. Okay, I just realized we have to talk about the sound effects. The visuals are so freaking pretty, but I literally can't focus on them when I hear sounds like that. I think you're wasting a lot of potential here. Sound really carries scenes like this. I made a little mock-up for you. Man, the game looks so nice in color that I wish we'd always see it in color. This is really pretty. Maybe the sky should also get a color when we're standing in one of those colored zones. Gray can unfortunately look a little unfinished, whether it's intentional or not.
Do you see that tree in the distance? Get there and find out why it is not blooming.
This feels a little bit like players didn't spot the tree, so let's add a cutscene to point that out. I think preferably the tree would just be big and noticeable enough that I would be driven there by my own curiosity.
To activate this pillar, you need to find the lost spirit first.
The game is rather concerned with me not finding the correct direction, which I guess is fair, because as we've already established, I'm an idiot. As the game slowly faded out the hand-holding a bit, I started having some pretty good moments. The visuals and the atmosphere are beautiful, the main character is adorable, sometimes parts of the level suddenly become colorful and you have not the slightest clue why, but it looks pretty, so I'm not complaining.
To activate this pillar, you need to find the lost spirit. This tree is your connection to the other Dream Guardians. Its energy seems to be corrupted. Find a way to restore it.
I am an idiot. However, when I play a game, I don't want to feel like an idiot. So what you somehow need to manage to do is you need to tell me all of the information I need to know, but without making me feel like an idiot. Maybe put the information into the subtext and let me use my brain at least a little bit.
This tree has been corrupted ever since I've been a child. I wish I would still be alive to see it carry leaves again.
You know what I mean? The challenge is tell me what to do without telling me what to do, because nobody likes being told what to do. I carried some glowy things into holdy things, typical game stuff. Actually, I'm starting to believe that these might be placeholder sound effects, because I can't quite believe it otherwise.
You restored the tree's energy. Now, you should be able to reach the Tree of Origin. For that, you have to use the energy of your spirit followers.
Oh my goodness. I'm feeling like I'm 10 years old again. I used to sit below this tree with my imaginary friends. They could take me anywhere.
I want story and not exposition. What differentiates story from exposition? I'm telling you, story requires you to read between the lines, and exposition assumes you're an idiot. I want to read between the lines a little bit. Otherwise, it really just feels like endless exposition. We don't want that. It's not a one-time occurrence either. It immediately happens again.
This is the Tree of Origin. Like your dream, it has been corrupted. You restored your own dream. But to restore the Tree of Origin, you need the help of the other guardians. For now, find the Guardian of Curiosity, Leifin.
I'm also thinking, especially when you're trying to make a point about rediscovering your curiosity, then how about letting players express that curiosity by not constantly telling them what to do?
For now, find the Guardian of Curiosity, Leifin.
We get a super pretty temple section that is absolutely gorgeous. Actually my favorite section of the game so far.
To activate this pillar, you need to find the lost spirit.
That's what I thought. Okay, now here we have a puzzle.
You finally found her, but she seems not to be able to wake up. This evil energy seems to prevent her from doing so. You need to go deeper in order to find a way to help her.
We made it all the way through the demo and were prompted to wishlist the game. Very nice. On the positive side, this game is not gonna struggle to find some beautiful marketing screenshots. It looks gorgeous. It's also one of the reasons why out of 500 submissions, this was one of the games I wanted to play. I will, however, say that the screenshots in color look significantly better than the screenshots without color. That your coloring in the world as you go seems to be a metaphor for rediscovering your inner child, your curiosity, your imagination. It's a really beautiful message. I love the message. However, for it to really land properly, I feel like it would have to be reflected in gameplay a bit more. You can't ask me to be curious and at the same time constantly tell me what to do. And you also can't ask me to use my imagination while constantly giving me exposition. There's a little bit of a mismatch there for me personally. The game still seems to be struggling with its own identity a little bit. For example, there's a form shifting mechanic that we never had to use. Another example, the world is already black and white, but then there's a form shifting mechanic that makes the world even more black and white. It's almost a bit much. We fixed the corruption on a small tree, we fixed the corruption on a big tree, then we figure out that we need to go deeper into the dream and fix the big tree again. You see what I mean? It's a bit too complicated for its own good. If the game was just like, hey, fix the big tree from the very beginning, I think that would be way easier to understand and would also require a lot less exposition. The game was genuinely at its best when it left me alone for a bit, when it let me explore, when it let me wander. For the final game, I would love to see much more of that so that I can hopefully rediscover my inner child. Please support the developers shown in this video by checking out the links in the descriptions. Whatever links they gave me, I put down there. Wishlist their games. How do you submit your game to the show? Please don't. If you haven't already, whenever I make these videos, I give you very clear instructions on how to submit your game. If you missed the submission period, then please don't submit your game. I have way too many games already. If you want to submit, then please wait for the next submission period. I announce these on YouTube, Twitter, /X, and Discord. Can you send me an updated version of your game if you have submitted in the last submission period? Yes, you definitely can, cause making these videos, as you can see, takes a very long time. If you want me to play a more up-to-date version, then just reply to your initial email with an update. That's completely fine. How many more games will I play from the last submission period? I don't know. There are a bunch more I want to play, so this is not gonna be the only video. There will be at least one more video playing games, maybe more, but I don't want to promise too much. I just want to say the submissions were really strong this time. I'm completely blown away by all of the awesome stuff you sent me, and I'm really sorry that I didn't get to play all of them, or not even close. I think the best way to think about these videos is basically a mind upload, right? I upload how I think about video games. You get to download how I think about video games. It's not really about specific games. It's more like about the general ideas. I would say the same things for 90% of the games. Like the same mistakes are repeated over and over again. And a lot of the things I say apply to many, many, many submissions I got. So hopefully you got something useful out of this, whether I played your game or not. But that's enough rambling. See you next time.